All right.
I'm Coach Vaughn. This is Coach Perigo. Many of you we have met, others not. I'm going to go over this in sort of two parts, the normal part and the COVID part. We'll start with the normal part, and then we'll add on from there. For the normal part, practices, well, this isn't totally normal, for the junior high are going to be from 2 to 3. The students are done at 1:30, and they'll be transported by bus over to the high school.
Just take your mask off.
That's true.
We're far enough apart. We're going to remove the mask.
They'll be transported over to the high school, and then there'll be a short study hall there in the cafeteria. Correct? And Coach Perigo, who works in the high school, will come down and get them about 10 of 2. They'll get changed in the high school, and then take all of their things down to the track, and practice will then run from 2 to 3. That means they'll be picked up at 3 at the stadium.
Nope. At 3 here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Right.
They'll walk over to here, to this parking lot. It doesn't have to be right here, and picked up here. We're not supposed to be doing any dropping off or picking up at the stadium because the parking lot only holds about 8 cars. And that gets a little tight when there's a lot of sports going.
When buses are coming in and out too, so.
Thank you for that. What's going to happen then is I can't get here until 3:15. And so Coach Perigo will be checking in, get to the checking in a second, the high school students at 3 o'clock to 3:15. That's the window. So that when I get here, they're all checked in and ready to go. Perfect.
Can't miss that.
One more thing. So they will also be in a study hall that's being provided at the high school in the cafeteria. And then they'll come down a little before 3, so they're arriving at the stadium at 3. On their own, they'll do that. They are permitted to go home and come back. If you're able to arrange transportation, then you would want to be dropping the high school students off around 3 if they're going home and coming back. Yeah, and then practice is over at 4:45 for the high school. That's the pickup time. Same thing, pick up in this parking lot. As far as the meets, times and locations, the meets are going to be different this year, of course. Our schedule has changed. If it's a weekday meet, the boys are going to be running at 4:30 and the girls at 5. If it's a weekend meet, we now have several weekend meets. Those are going to be at 10 in the morning for girls.
On Saturday.
On Saturday, 10 in the morning, and then 10:30 for girls. So it'll be 10 to 11 at the various locations. I have that schedule for you tonight. You'll see in just a bit.
Yeah. Usually it's boys and then girls. I guess sometimes they might switch that, but I think it's almost always boys and then girls. I don't know if it's a hard set rule.
The only exception I know of is the county meet.
Yeah.
Everything else is boys and then girls. That's right. As far as the locations go, one thing we kind of have going for us in cross country is although spectators are not allowed as far as the state's concerned, some of these things are at open park venues, and there's no reason you couldn't be at that park and see somebody run by.
Right.
I wouldn't suggest congregating around the starting line or the finish line. You might get chased away. But, I mean, even our campus is an open campus. If you're up by the elementary school and somebody runs by, you might see them. One advantage that cross country has, I guess, in this situation. As far as communication, we both have a Remind set up. That'll be on the paper we give you here tonight with the guidelines. And there is also a sort of more informal Facebook group, Spring Grove Cross Country, which you or your athlete can join. And sometimes we put things on there. We even have people who ran 20 years ago that are members of that. So that's not really for daily announcements, but more for just celebrating cross country, I guess, or something like that. Another one of the normal things we talk about now is hydration and diet. One of the most important things you can do is to make sure that your athlete is staying well hydrated. I know I have to fight that with my daughter quite a bit. You should really be drinking 2 or 3 big glasses of water before you go to bed when you get home at night. Because we're going to be sweating a lot out. It's hot. It's August. It's September. We do run on hot days. It's brutal, and you got to get that back in. As far as the diet part, just watch for big changes in your athlete's diet. We're especially looking for people who are eating less and less. Eating more and more is great. That should be happening probably because they're burning a lot more calories. If you start to see a diet change and you're concerned, talk to us, or we can direct you to somebody that you might want to talk to. That is something we sometimes see with athletes.
Yeah. Back to hydration. I assume the middle school's like this, but the high school definitely is. The water fountains are not on because of the COVID stuff. So the kids are supposed to bring their drinks for the whole day. Bring water, especially for athletes. They're going to be drinking throughout the day. So the bigger bottle you bring, or if you have a backup bottle, in your locker or something like that for the second half of the day, that would be good, because they do need to be drinking throughout the day so that they can stay hydrated. Having said that, when I pick them up, and this is on that paper that I gave you for the junior high team, when I pick up the junior high team, I'm going to take them to the refill station. We have one of those in the gym that is still on. The water fountain part's not, but the bottle refill is on. So they can fill up there, and then we'll come down here for practice. The high school team, I guess they can do that on their own. I don't know if I have to make their own arrangements for that. But I will be walking the junior high team up to fill their bottles before we come down for practice. So everything on that list that I gave you for the junior high people, that's what I plan to do at this point, subject to change, but I think that's going to be our best option for starters. And then if anything changes that you need to know about, I'll let you all know when the time comes. All right, so that's it for that.
2 other normal things. One is shoes. We do want to make sure your runner at some point has running shoes. Most people do show up on the first day with shoes that are made for running. Some don't. They're going to get a lot of pounding on their legs, and they're going to have a much better chance of lasting through the season and having success and not being on the injury list if they have properly fitting shoes. There's lots of different ways people plant their feet. It's sort of genetic. But if you want to go to a place that can maybe choose the right shoe for your runner based on that, then one suggestion is there's a place called Flying Feet, which sort of specializes in that. And if you take an old pair of shoes, they can look at how the tread has worn, sort of like on your car, and they can see what kind of shoe you ought to be wearing. And they give you a 10% discount if you say you're running for a high school sport, so that's kind of nice too. So that's our little plug for them. But you could go anywhere, but they seem to be the most knowledgeable in the area about that sort of thing. I also recommend Rapid Transit in State College if you happen to be going there. The last regular thing is attendance. Attendance is assumed to be mandatory and required at every practice. We're expecting to see the runner there. If not, we're going to want to know why. So we need communication. We need to know if they're not going to be there. If you know something's coming up and they're going to be missing, please give a signed, dated note that they can bring to the coach. Because if you just tell us and you're leaving, we might not have a place to write it down. It's really best to have it on paper. And if something comes up last minute and suddenly they can't be there, please the next day send along an explanation. It's really helpful for us to have that documented so we can keep track of who's where and when they're not.